You know, as nice as that big open room is, I want to stream somewhere more comfortable today. Hey fan gang, hope you're having a fantastic Monday. I definitely am, because today the channel hit 100 subscribers. That is pretty awesome. Let me go and switch over the music while I'm thinking about it. Put on my reading glasses, because today we are reading more Dracula. There was something else I was gonna say. I forgot. It was probably important, but it doesn't matter. We're reading more Dracula today with chapter 9. Last time, what happened last time? Dracula was getting fangy on Lucy, Mina's best friend. Mina being Jonathan Harker's friend. And Mina is also heading out towards Budapest, if I remember right, because she got a letter from a nunnery there or something like that, who said that they had her husband, who was on the mend, after escaping Dracula's castle. So that is something. I'm actually very surprised that it seems like Jonathan Harker is even alive at all, if that is Jonathan Harker who sent the letter. There's still all the room in the world for Jonathan Harker to be dead. Let me get a throat lozenge and then we will jump into this. I was having a fantastic day even before the channel hit 100. But going triple digits is the first really big goal for the channel I had. Our first goal was 50, and that was cool. But going triple digits feels special. And now the next goal for the channel is 500. So, there we go. We're on the road, making progress. Take a sip of my tea. And let us begin with Dracula by Bram Stoker, Chapter 9. Letter, Mina Harker to Lucy Westenra. From Budapest on the 24th of August. My dearest Lucy, I know you will be anxious to hear all that has happened since we parted at the railway station at Whitby. Well, my dear, I got to Hull all right, and caught the boat to Hamburg, and then the train on here. I feel that I can hardly recall anything of the journey, except that I know I was coming to Jonathan, and that as I should have to do some nursing, I had better get all the sleep I could. I found my dear one, oh so thin and pale and weak looking, though he is alive. All the resolution has gone out of his dear eyes, and that quiet dignity, which I told you was in his face, has vanished. He is only a wreck of himself, and he does not remember anything that has happened to him for a long time past. At least, he wants me to believe so, and I shall never ask. He has had some terrible shock, and I fear it might tax his poor brain if he were to try to recall it. Sister Agatha, the one who previously sent the letter to Mina, who is a good creature and a born nurse, tells me that he raved of dreadful things whilst he was off his head. That's a quaint term, off his head. I haven't heard that before. I wanted her to tell me what they were, but she would only cross herself and say she would never tell. That the ravings of the sick were the secrets of God, and that if a nurse, through her vocation, should hear them, she should respect her trust. Good on her, bless her heart. She is a sweet, good soul. Good soul. And the next day, when she saw I was troubled, she opened up the subject again, and after saying that she could never mention what my poor dear raved about, added, I can tell you this much, my dear, that it was not about anything which he has done wrong himself, and you, as his wife-to-be, have no cause to be concerned. He has not forgotten you, or what he owes you. His fear was of great and terrible things which no mortal can treat of. I do believe the dear soul thought I might be jealous lest my poor dear should have fallen in love with any other girl. The idea of my being jealous about Jonathan. And yet, my dear, let me whisper, I felt a thrill of joy through me when I knew that no other woman was a cause of trouble. I am now sitting by his bedside, where I can see his face while he sleeps. He is waking. When he woke, he asked me for his coat, as he wanted to get something from the pocket. I asked Sister Agatha, and she brought all his things. I saw that amongst them was his notebook, and was going to ask him to let me look at it, for I knew that I might find some clue to his trouble. But I suppose he must have seen my wish in my eyes, for he sent me over to the window, saying he wanted to be quite alone for a moment. Then he called me back, and when I came, he had his hand over the notebook, and he said to me, very solemnly, I don't know why I had trouble with that one. Wilhelmina. I know then that he was in deadly earnest, for he has never called me by that name since he asked me to marry him. You know, dear, my ideas of the trust between husband and wife. Getting tongue-tied today. There should be no secret, no concealment. I have had a great shock, and when I try to think of what it is, I feel my head spin around, and I do not know if it was all real or the dreaming of a madman. You know I have had brain fever, and that is to be mad. The secret is here. I do not want to know it. I want to take up my life here with our marriage. For, my dear, we have decided to be married as soon as the formalities are complete. Are you willing, Wilhelmina, to share my ignorance? Here is the book. Take it and keep it. Read it if you will, but never let me know, unless indeed some solemn duty should come upon me to go back to the bitter hours, asleep or awake, sane or mad, recorded here. He fell back, exhausted, and I put the book under his pillow and kissed him. I have asked Sister Agatha to beg the Superior to let our wedding be this afternoon, and I'm waiting her reply. That's a sweet scene. My mic is up on my girl too much. There we go. She has come and told me that the chaplain of the English Mission Church has been sent for. We are to be married in an hour, or as soon after as Jonathan awakes. Lucy, the time has come and gone. I feel very solemn, but very, very happy. Jonathan woke a little after the hour, and all was ready, and he sat up in bed, propped up with pillows. He answered his, "I will," firmly and strongly. I could hardly speak. My heart was so full that even those words seemed to choke me. The dear sisters were so kind. Hey Loom Loom, hope you're doing good. Hello everyone else, I am currently reading Dracula by Bram Stoker, the original one. Hope you're all doing fantastic. We are currently on chapter 9. Where was I? And thank you for the raid, Loomy. I appreciate it. Also those shoutouts on Twitter. I appreciate you. I was around here. Yeah, here we go. The dear sisters were so kind. Please God, I shall never, never forget them, nor the grave and sweet responsibilities I have taken upon me. I must tell you of my wedding present. When the chaplain and the sisters had left me alone with my husband, oh Lucy, it is the first time I have written the words, my husband. Left me alone with my husband. I took the book from under his pillow and wrapped it up in white paper and tied it with a little bit of pale blue ribbon which was around my neck and sealed it over the knot with a sealing wax. And for my seal, I used my wedding ring. Then I kissed it and showed it to my husband and told him that I would keep it so, and then it would be an outward, invisible sign for us all our lives that we trusted each other. That I would never open it unless it were for his own dear sake or for the sake of some stern duty. Then he took my hand in his, and oh Lucy, it was the first time he took his wife's hand, and said it was the dearest thing in all the wide world, and that he would go through all the past again to win it, if need be. The poor dear, meant to have sit a part of the past, but he cannot think of a time yet, and I shall not wonder if at first he mixes up not only the month, but the year. For everyone that is filing in, we are reading Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is currently on chapter 9. Quick recap. Chapter 1 was Jonathan Hawker, a English solicitor, which is basically the old real estate agent of sorts, going to Castle Dracula to give the Romanian count a summary, kind of some English real estate that Count Dracula wanted to retire to. It's not entirely clear yet why he wanted to move to the English countryside. And then through the following chapters, it was Jonathan Harker's descent into madness and fright inside Castle Dracula as he became aware that Dracula was holding him not hostage but prisoner, and there were other fellow creatures inside the castle with him that Dracula was currently keeping away from Jonathan Harker, but only until Jonathan Harker was still useful, and after that, he would die. Then, Count Dracula departed the castle, moving to his new real estate in England, leaving Jonathan Harker behind with the other creatures in the castle that wanted his blood. So Jonathan Harker managed to escape, which is still undisclosed how. And then we cut to a section through the English side of the story with Jonathan Harker's fiancée, Mina. And there are some English flirty rom-com drama kind of for a few chapters until suddenly Dracula crashed his ship ashore onto the English village. And now Dracula is residing inside an abandoned manor next to a sanitarium. And now Mina has gone to Budapest to fetch and nurse her fiancé, now husband, Jonathan Harker. When that is caught us all up. Alright. And thank you all again for joining me with the raid. Let us get back into Dracula, Chapter 9. Well, my dear, what could I say? I could only tell him that I was the happiest woman in all the wide world, and that I had nothing to give him except myself, my life, and my trust, and that with these went my love and duty for all the days of my life. And my dear, when he kissed me and drew me to him with his poor weak hands, it was like a very solemn pledge between us. Lucy dear, do you know why I tell you all this? It is not only because it is all sweet to me, but because you have been, and are, very dear to me. It was my privilege to be your friend and guide when you came from the schoolroom to prepare for the world of life. I want you to see now, and with the eyes of a very happy wife, whither duty has led me, so that in your own married life you too may be all happy as I am. My dear, please Almighty God, your life may be all it promises, a long day of sunshine, with no harsh wind, no forgetting duty, no distrust. I must not wish you no pain, for that can never be, but I do hope that you will be always as happy as I am now. Goodbye, my dear. I shall post this at once, and perhaps write you very soon again. I must stop, for Jonathan's waking. I must attend to my husband. Your ever-loving Mina Harker. Lucy was a housemate of Mina in the English village, who was being hypnotized of sorts by Dracula and getting her blood sucked by him, it seems. As Lucy was having spells of sleepwalking, which led her all across town to a graveyard where Dracula seemed to have been haunting. And that was in the past few chapters. Now for the reply letter from Lucy Rustinra to Mina Harker from Whitby, the English village, on the 30th of August. In the framework of this, the book Dracula is that it's a series of letters or journal entries. My dearest Mina, oceans of love and millions of kisses, and may you soon be in your own home with your husband. I wish you could be coming home soon enough to stay with us here. The strong air would soon restore Jonathan. It has quite restored me. I have an appetite like a cormorant, whatever that is. I'm full of life and sleep well. You will be glad to know that I have quite given up my walking in my sleep. I think I have not stirred out of my bed for a week. That is when I once got into at night. Arthur says I'm getting fat. Rude. By the way, I forgot to tell you that Arthur is here. We have such walks and drives and rides and rowing and tennis and fishing together, and I love him more than ever. He tells me that he loves me more, but I doubt that. For at first, he told me that he couldn't love me more than he did then. But this is nonsense. There he is, calling to me. So no more, just at present from your loving, Lucy. P.S. Mother sends her love. She seems better, poor dear. Lucy's mother was told that she's going to die within a few months by her doctor. PPS, we're to be married on the 28th of September. Cormorants are birds. Good to know, thank you. Now, Dr. Seward's diary. Dr. Seward was one of... There's like a love triangle for the 3 bachelors who wanted to marry Lucy. Dr. Seward was one of them. And Dr. Seward is kind of a psychopath who runs the insane asylum next to Dracula. And Dr. Seward's most notable patient was Renfield here, who in the last chapter escaped and pledged his eternal service to Dracula, strangely enough. Now, for Dr. Seward's diary, dated the 20th of August. The case of Renfield grows even more interesting. He has now so far quieted that there are spells of cessation from his passion. For the first week after his attack, he was perpetually violent. Then one night, just as the moon rose, he grew quiet and kept murmuring to himself, "Now I can wait. Now I can wait." The attendant came to tell me, so I ran down at once to have a look at him. He was still in the straight waistcoat and in the padded room, but the suffused look had gone from his face, and his eyes had something of their old pleading, I might almost say cringing softness. I was satisfied with his present condition and directed him to be relieved. The attendants hesitated, but finally carried out my wishes without protest. It was a strange thing that the patient had humor enough to see their distrust, or coming close to me. He said in a whisper, all while looking furtively at them, "They think I could hurt you. Fancy me hurting you. The fools." It was soothing, somehow, to the feelings to find myself dissociated even in the mind of this poor madman from the others, but all the same, I do not follow his thought. Am I to take it that I have anything in common with him, so that we are, as it were, to stand together? Or has he to gain from me some good so stupendous that my well-being is needful to him? I must find out later on. Tonight he will not speak. Even the offer of a kitten or even a full-grown cat will not tempt him. He will only say, "I don't take any stock in cats. I have more to think of now, and I can wait. I can wait." After a while, I left him. The attendant tells me that he was quiet until just before dawn, and that then he began to get uneasy and at length violent. Until at last, he fell into a paroxysm, which exhausted him so that he swooned into a sort of coma. Previous chapters, Renfield had a hobby in the insane asylum of collecting various pets, which he would feed to each other, which he would eventually eat the last remaining, because his insane logic was that he would get strength from consuming the accumulated souls that had built up in each being. So he was collecting flies to feed to spiders, to feed to sparrows, which he then wanted to feed to cats, but then he couldn't get the cat. Three nights has the same thing happened. Violent all day, then quiet from moonrise to sunrise. I wish I could get some clue to the cause. It would almost seem as if there was some influence which came and went. Happy thought. We shall tonight play sane wits against mad ones. He escaped before without our help. Tonight he shall escape with it. We shall give him a chance and have the men ready to follow in case they are required. The last day was 20th, so now we're on the 23rd of August. The unexpected always happens. How well Disraeli knew life. Our bird, when he found the cage open, would not fly, so all our subtle arrangements were for naught. At any rate, we have proved one thing, that the spells of quietness last a reasonable time. We shall in future be able to ease his bonds for a few hours each day. I have given orders to the night attendant merely to shut him in the padded room, when, once he is quiet, until an hour before sunrise. The poor soul's body will enjoy the relief even if his mind cannot appreciate it. Hark, the unexpected again. I am called. The patient has once more escaped. Later, on the 23rd of August. Another night adventure. Renfield artfully waited until the attendant was entering the room to inspect. Then he dashed out past him and flew down the passage. I sent word for the attendants to follow. Again, he went into the grounds of the deserted house, that being Dracula's house. And we found him in the same place, pressed against the old chapel door. When he saw me, he became furious, and had not the attendants seized him in time, he would have tried to kill me. As we were holding him, a strange thing happened. He suddenly redoubled his efforts, and then, as suddenly, grew calm. I looked round instinctively, but could see nothing. Then I caught the patient's eye and followed it, but could trace nothing as it looked into the moonlit sky except a big bat, which was flapping its silent and ghostly way to the west. Bats usually wheel and flit about, but this one seemed to go straight on, as if it knew where it was bound for or had some intention of its own. The patient grew calmer every instant, and presently said, "You needn't tie me, I shall go quietly." Without trouble, we came back to the house. I feel there is something ominous in his calm, and shall not forget this night. Lucy Westenra's diary. From Hillingham, 24th of August. I must imitate Mina, and keep writing things down. Then we can have long talks when we do meet. I wonder when it will be. I wish you were with me again, for I feel so unhappy. Last night, I seemed to be dreaming again, just as I was at Whitby. Perhaps it is the change of air, or getting home again. It is all dark and horrid to me, for I can remember nothing, but I am full of vague fear, and I feel so weak and worn out. When Arthur came to lunch, he looked quite grieved when he saw me, and I hadn't the spirit to try to be cheerful. I wonder if I could sleep in Mother's room tonight. I shall make an excuse and try. "25th of August. Another bad night. Mother did not seem to take to my proposal. She seems not too well herself, and doubtless she fears to worry me. I tried to keep awake, and succeeded for a while, but when the clock struck 12, it waked me from a doze, so I must have been falling asleep. There was a sort of scratching or flapping at the window, but I did not mind it, and as I remember no more, I suppose I must then have fallen asleep. More bad dreams. I wish I could remember them. This morning, I am horribly weak. My face is ghastly pale, and my throat pains me. It must be something wrong with my lungs, for I don't seem ever to get air enough. I shall try to cheer up when Arthur comes, or else I know he'll be miserable to see me so. Letter from Arthur homeward to Dr. Seward. They were friends. Albemarle Hotel on the 31st of August. Good tea. Green tea with honey. My dear Jack, I want you to do me a favor. Lucy is ill. That is, she has no special disease, but she looks awful, rude, and is getting worse every day. I have asked her if there is any cause. I do not dare to ask her mother, for to disturb the poor lady's mind about her daughter in her present state of health would be fatal. Mrs. Westenra has confided to me that her doom is spoken, disease of the heart. The poor Lucy does not know it yet. I am sure that there is something preying on my dear girl's mind. I am almost distracted when I think of her. To look at her gives me a pang. I told her I should ask you to see her, and though she demurred at first, I know why, old fellow. She finally consented. It will be a painful task for you, I know, old friend, but it is for her sake, and I must not hesitate to ask, or you to act. You are to come at lunch at Hillingham tomorrow, 2 o'clock, so as to not arouse any suspicion in Mrs. Westenra. And after lunch, Lucy will take an opportunity of being alone with you. I shall come in for tea, and we can go away together. I am filled with anxiety, and want to consult with you alone as soon as I can after you have seen her. Do not fail. Arthur. Telegram from Arthur to Seward. 1st of September. Am summoned to see my father, who is worse. Am writing. Write me fully by tonight's post to ring. Wire me, if necessary. In the return letter, from Seward to Arthur. The next day on the 2nd of September. My dear old fellow, with regard to Miss Westenra's health, I hasten to let you know at once that in my opinion, there is not any functional disturbance or malady that I know of. At the same time, I am not by any means satisfied with her appearance. She is woefully different from what she was when I saw her last. Of course, you must bear in mind that I did not have full opportunity of examination such as I should wish. Our very friendship makes a little difficulty, which not even medical science or custom can bridge over. I had better tell you exactly what happened, leaving you to draw, in a measure, your own conclusions. I shall then say what I have done and propose doing. I found Miss Westenra in seemingly gay spirits. Her mother was present, and in a few seconds I made up my mind that she was trying all she knew to mislead her mother and prevent her from being anxious. I have no doubt she guesses, if she does not know, what need of caution there is. We lunched alone, and as we all exerted ourselves to be cheerful, we got as some kind of reward for our labors, some real cheerfulness amongst us. Among us. Then Mrs. Westenra went to lie down, and Lucy was left with me. We went into her boudoir. Until we got there, her gaiety remained, for the servants were coming and going. As soon as the door was closed, however, the mask fell from her face, and she sank down into a chair with a great sigh, and hid her eyes with her hand. When I saw that her high spirits had failed, I at once took advantage of her reaction to make a diagnosis. She said to me, very sweetly, I cannot tell you how I loathe talking about myself. I reminded her that a doctor's confidence was sacred, but that you were grievously anxious about her. She caught on to my meaning at once and settled that matter in a word. Tell Arthur everything you choose. I do not care for myself, but all for him, so I'm quite free. I could easily see that she is somewhat bloodless, but I could not see the usual anemic signs, and by chance I was actually able to test the quality of her blood for an opening a window which a stiff cord gave way, and she cut her hand slightly with broken glass. It was a slight matter in itself, but it gave me an evident chance, and I secured a few drops of the blood and have analyzed them. The qualitative analysis gives quite a normal condition, and shows, I should infer, in itself a vigorous state of health. In other physical matters, I was quite satisfied that there is no need for anxiety, but as there must be a cause somewhere, I have come to the conclusion that it must be something mental. She complains of difficulty in breathing satisfactory at times, and of heavy, lethargic sleep, with dreams that frighten her, but regarding which she can remember nothing. She says that as a child she used to walk in her sleep, and that when in Whitby the habit came back, and that at once she was walked out in the night and went to East Cliff, where Miss Murray found her. That's Mina. But she assures me that of late the habit has not returned. I am in doubt, and so have done the best thing I know of. I have written to my old friend and master, Professor Van Helsing of Amsterdam, that's all the name drop, who knows as much about obscure diseases as anyone in the world. I have asked him to come over, and as he told me that all things were to be at your charge, I have mentioned to him who you are and your relations to Miss Westenra. This, my dear fellow, is in obedience to your wishes, for I am only too proud and happy to do anything I can for her. Van Helsing would, I know, do anything for me for a personal reason, so no matter on what grounds he comes, we must accept his wishes. He is a seemingly arbitrary man, but this is because he knows what he is talking about better than anyone else. He is a philosopher in a metaphysician, and one of the most advanced scientists of his day, and he has, I believe, an absolutely open mind. This, with an iron nerve, a temper of the ice brook, an indomitable resolution, self-command, and toleration exalted from virtues to blessings. Keep on yapping about him. And the kindliest and truest heart that beats. These form his equipment for the noble work that he is doing for mankind. Work both in theory and practice, for his views are as wide as his all-embracing sympathy. I tell you these facts that you may know why I have such confidence in him. I have asked him to come at once. I shall see Miss Westenra tomorrow again. She is to meet me at the stores, so that I may not alarm her mother by too early a repetition of my call. Yours always, John Seward. Letter from Abraham Van Helsing, medical doctor, philosopher doctor, literature doctor, more doctors, show off, to Dr. Seward. On the 2nd of September. My good friend, when I have received your letter, I am already coming to you. By good fortune, I can leave just at once, without wrong to any of those who have trusted me. Were fortune other, then it were bad for those who have trusted. For I come to my friend when he call me to aid those he holds dear. Tell your friend that when that time you suck from my wound so swiftly the poison of the weird sin structure. Hey Neve, hope you're doing good. I'm just getting caught up on weird sin structure. Tell your friend that when that time you suck from my wound so swiftly the poison of the gangrene from that knife that our other friend, too nervous, let slip. You did more for him when he wants my aids, and you call for them, than all his great fortune could do. That sentence is twisted about, but I get that Dr. Seward, saved Helsing's life from gangrene, because the other guy was incompetent. But it is pleasure added to do for him, your friend. It is to you that I come. Have then rooms for me at the Great Eastern Hotel, so that I may be near at hand, and please it so arrange that we may see the young lady not too late on tomorrow. For it is likely that I may have to return here at night. But if need be, I shall come again in 3 days, and stay longer if it must. Till then, goodbye, my friend John Van Helsing. And Dr. Seward, to the Honorable Arthur Homeward, who I think is honorable. Is he a judge? I don't remember if that was mentioned. I guess he's the judge. On the 3rd of September. My dear Art, Van Helsing has come and gone. He came on with me to Hillingham and found that by Lucy's discretion, her mother was lunching out, so that we were alone with her. Van Helsing made a very careful examination of the patient. He is to report to me, and I shall advise you, for of course I was not present all the time. He is, I fear, much concerned, but says he must think. When I told him of our friendship and how you trust to me in the matter, he said, "You must tell him all you think. Tell him what I think, if you can guess it, if you will." Nay, I am not jesting. There is no jest, but life and death, perhaps more. I asked what he meant by that, for he was very serious. This was when we had come back to town, and he was having a cup of tea before starting on his return to Amsterdam. He would not give me any further clue. You must not be angry with me, Art, because his very reticence means that all his brains are working for her good. He will speak plainly enough when the time comes, be sure. So I told him I would simply write an account of our visit, just as if I were doing a descriptive special article for the Daily Telegraph. He seemed not to notice, but remarked that the smuts in London were not quite so bad as they used to be when he was a student here. I am to get his report tomorrow, if he can possibly make it. In any case, I am to have a letter. Well, as to the visit. Lucy was more cheerful than on the day I first saw her, and certainly looked better. She had lost something of the ghastly look that so upset you, and her breathing was normal. She was very sweet to the professor, as she always is, and tried to make him feel at ease, though I could see that the Pearl Girl was making a hard struggle for it. I believe Van Helsing saw it too, for I saw the quick look under his bushy brows that I knew of old. Then he began to chat of all things except ourselves and diseases, and with such an infinite geniality that I could see poor Lucy's pretense of animation merge into reality. Then, without any seeming change, he brought the conversation gently round to his visit, and suavely said, "My dear young miss, I have the so great pleasure because you are so much beloved. That is much, my dear, ever were there that which I do not see. They told me you were down in the spirit, and that you were of a ghastly pale. To them I say, ha!" And he snapped his fingers at me and went on. "But you and I shall show them how wrong they are. How can he," and he pointed at me with the same look and gesture as that which once he pointed me out to his class, on or rather after, a particular occasion which he never fails to remind me of, "know anything of a young lady?" Rude. He just got destroyed. "He has his madams to play with, and to bring them back to happiness, and to those that love them. It is much to do, and oh, but there are rewards, in that we can bestow such happiness. But the young ladies, he has no wife nor daughter, and the young do not tell themselves to the young, but to the old like me, who have known so many sorrows and the causes of them. So, my dear, will you send him away to smoke a cigarette in the garden, whiles you and I have a little talk all to ourselves?" He really did just get destroyed there. I took the hint and strolled about, mauding and seething, and presently the professor came to the window and called me in. He looked grave, but said, "I have made careful examination, but there is no functional cause. With you, I agree that there has been much blood lost. It has been, but is not. But the conditions of her are in no way anemic. I have asked her to send me her maid, that I may ask just one or two questions. That, so I may not chance to miss nothing. I know well what she will say, and yet there is cause. There is always cause for everything. I must go back home and think. You must send to me the telegram every day, and if there be cause, I shall come again. The disease, for not to be all well is a disease, interests me, and the sweet young dear, she interests me too. She charms me, and for her, if not for you or disease, I come." Old people do talk very weird. Old-timey people, that is. I agree, Neve. As I tell you, he would not say a word more, even when we were alone. And so now, Art, you know all I know. I shall keep stern watch. I trust your poor father is rallying. It must be a terrible thing to you, my dear old fellow, to be placed in such a position between two people who are both so dear to you. I know your idea of duty to your father, and you are right to stick to it. But if need be, I shall send you word to come at once to Lucy. So do not be over anxious unless you hear from me. Moving on to Dr. Seward's diary on the 4th of September. Zoophagus is the word he invented for Rhinefield to describe his habit of feeding animals to other animals to then consume the animal that ate them all. Zoophagus patient still keeps up our interest in him. He had only one outburst, and that was yesterday at an unusual time. Just before the stroke of noon, he began to grow restless. The attendant knew the symptoms and at once summoned aid. Fortunately, the men came at a run and were just in time for at the stroke of noon he became so violent that it took all their strength to hold him. In about 5 minutes, however, he began to get more and more quiet, and finally sank into a sort of melancholy, in which state he has remained up to now. The attendant tells me that his screams whilst in the paroxysm were really appalling. I found my hands full when I got in, attending to some of the other patients who were frightened by him. Indeed, I can quite understand the effect, for the sounds disturbed even me, though I was some distance away. It is now after the dinner hour of the asylum, and as yet, my patient sits in a corner, brooding, with a dull, sullen, woebegone look in his face, which seems rather to indicate than to show something directly. I cannot quite understand it. Later, on the 4th of September, another change in my patient. At 5 o'clock, I looked in on him and found him seemingly as happy and contented as he used to be. He was catching flies and eating them, and was keeping note of his capture by making nail marks on the edge of the door between the ridges of padding. When he saw me, he came over and apologized for his bad conduct and asked me in a very humble, cringing way to be led back to his own room and to have his notebook again. I thought it well to humor him, so he is back in his room with the window open. He has the sugar of his tea spread out on the windowsill and is reaping quite the harvest of flies. He is not now eating them, but putting them into a box, as of old. It is already examining the corners of his room to find a spider. I tried to get him to talk about the past few days, for any clue to his thoughts would be of immense help to me, but he would not rise. For a moment or two, he looked very sad, and said in a sort of faraway voice, as though saying it rather to himself than to me. All over, all over! He has deserted me! No hope for me now unless I do it myself. Then suddenly turning to me in a resolute way, he said, Doctor, wouldn't you be very good to me and let me have a little more sugar? I think it would be good for me. And the flies? I said. Yes, the flies like it too, and I like the flies. Therefore, I like it. And there are people who know so little as to think that madmen do not argue. I procured him a double supply and left him as happy a man as, I suppose, any in the world. I wish I could fathom his mind. I think previously Dr. Seward wanted to do a EO'd lobotomy to examine Renfield's brain. Later that day at midnight, another change in him. I had been to see Miss Westenra, whom I found much better, and had just returned, and was standing at our own gate looking at the sunset, when once more I heard him yelling. As his room is on this side of the house, I could hear it better than in the morning. It was a shock to me, turned from the wonderful smoky beauty of a sunset over London, with its lurid lights and inky shadows, and all the marvelous tints that come on foul clouds, even as on foul water, and to realize all the grim sternness of my own cold stone building, with its wealth of breathing misery, and my own desolate heart to endure it all. I don't think they're going to give a madman fire to cook the flies in the bay. I can't imagine cooking the flies would make them better. Or was I? I reached him just as the sun was going down, and from his window saw the red disk sink. As it sank, he became less and less frenzied, and just as it dipped, he slid from the hands that held him, an inert mass on the floor. It is wonderful, however, what intellectual recuperative power lunatics have. For within a few minutes, he stood up quite calmly and looked around him. I signaled to the attendants not to hold him, for I was anxious to see what he would do. He went straight over to the window and brushed out the crumbs of sugar. Then he took his fly box and emptied it outside and threw away the box. Then he shut the window and, crossing over, sat down on his bed. All this surprised me, so I asked him, "Are you not going to keep flies anymore?" "No," said he. "I am sick of all that rubbish. He certainly is a wonderfully interesting study. I wish I could get some glimpse of his mind or of the cause of his sudden passion. Stop, there may be a clue after all, if we can find why today his paroxysms came on at high noon and at sunset. Can it be there is a malign influence of the sun at periods which affects certain natures, as at times the moon does to others? We shall see. Telegram from Seward to Van Helsing. 4th of September. Patient still better today. From the same to the same. Next day. Patient greatly improved. Good appetite. Sleeps naturally. Good spirits. Color coming back. Again, the same to the same. On the 6th of September. Terrible change for the worse. Come at once. Do not lose an hour. I hold over telegram to Homewood till have seen you. How long is this chapter? Because I have 15 minutes left. Chapter 10, 11, so 171. That's another 20 pages. Okay, later this week, we will continue reading Dracula to chapter 10. Actually, hell, I got 15 minutes. I'll just keep going and then cut it off, because these are in brief segments. So moving on. Sorry for that false alarm. Chapter 10, Letter from Dr. Seward to the Honorable Arthur Homewood. Wood. I keep saying Ward. 6th of September. My dear Art, my news today is not so good. Lucy this morning had gone back a bit. There is, however, one good thing which has arisen from it. Mrs. Westenra was naturally anxious concerning Lucy, and has consulted me professionally about her. I took advantage of the opportunity and told her that my old master, Van Helsing, the great specialist, was coming to stay with me, and that I would put her in his charge conjointly with myself. So now we can come and go without alarming her unduly, for a shock to her would mean sudden death. And this, in Lucy's weak condition, might be disastrous to her. We are hedged in with difficulties, all of us, my dear poor old fellow. But please God, we shall come through them all right. If any need, I shall write, so that if you do not hear from me, take it for granted that I am simply waiting for news. In haste, yours ever, John Seward. From the same's diary. On the 7th of September. So Arthur and Lucy were due to be married at the end of September. So I think it's betting odds right now that Lucy's not going to make it. I don't think she's going to make it, guys. 7th of September. The first thing Van Helsing said to me when we met at Liverpool Street was, "Have you said anything to our young friend, the lover of her?" "No," I said. "I waited till I had seen you, as I said in my telegram. I wrote him a letter simply telling him that you were coming, as Miss Westenra was not so well, and that I should let him know if need be." "Right, my friend," he said. "Quite right. Better he not know as yet. Perhaps he shall never know. I pray so. But if it be needed, then he shall know all. And my good friend John, let me caution you. You deal with the madmen. All men are mad in some way or the other. And inasmuch as you deal discreetly with your madmen, so deal with God's madmen too, the rest of the world. You tell not your madmen what you do, nor why you do it. You tell them not what you think. So ye shall keep knowledge in its place where it may rest. Oh god, Neve, are you really cursing us with September? Do we remember that night of September? We gotta move on before that song takes effect. The madman, knowledge, rest, where it may gather its kind around it and breed. You and I shall keep as yet what we know here and here. He touched me on the heart and on the forehead, and then touched himself the same way. I have for myself thoughts at the present. Later I shall unfold to you. Why not now? I asked. It may do some good. We may arrive at some decision. He stopped and looked at me and said, My friend John, when the corn is grown, even before it has ripened, while the milk of its mother earth is in him, and the sun's shine has not yet begun to paint him with his gold, the husbandman, he pull the ear and rub him between his rough hands, and blow away the green chaff, and say to you, this is a complicated metaphor. Look, he's good corn. He will make good crop when the time comes. I did not see the application, and told him so. For reply, he reached over and took my ear in his hand and pulled it playfully, as he used long ago to do at lectures, and said, The good husbandman tell you so then, because he knows, but not till then. But you do not find the good husbandman dig up his planted corn to see if he grows. That is for the children who play at husbandry, and not for those who take it as the work of their life. See you now, friend John, I have sown my corn, and nature has her work to do in making it sprout. If he sprout at all, there's some promise, and I wait till the ear begins to swell. He broke off, for he evidently saw that I understood. I wish I did. Then he went on, very gravely. I wish I understood that metaphor. I have 2 brain cells after work. I have to think on that one. You were always a careful student, and your casebook was ever more full than the rest. You were only student then, now you are master, and I trust that good habit have not fail. Remember, my friend, that knowledge is stronger than memory, and we should not trust the weaker. Why can't old people talk straightforward? Yeah. Van Helsing has a way with words, and goddamn, they're confusing. Reeker. Even if you have not kept the good practice, let me tell you that this case of our dear miss is one that may be, mind I say, may be, of such interest to us and others, that all the rest may not make him kick the beam, as your people say. What the hell does that mean? Take then good note of it. Nothing is too small. I counsel you, put down in record even your doubts and surmises. Hereafter, it may be of interest to you to see how true you guess. We learn from failure, not from success. That is true. That is big true. That's the first straightforward thing he said. When I described Lucy's symptoms, the same as before, but infinitely more marked, he looked very grave, but said nothing. He took with him a bag in which were many instruments and drugs. The ghastly paraphernalia of our beneficial trade, as he once called, in one of his lectures, the equipment of a professor of the healing craft. When we were shown in, Mrs. Weston met us. She was alarmed, but not nearly so much as I expected to find her. Nature, in one of her beneficent moods, has ordained that even death has some antidote to its own terrors. Here, in a case where any shock may prove fatal, matters are so ordered that, from some cause or other, the things not personal, even the terrible change in her daughter, to whom she is so attached, do not seem to reach her. It is something like the way Dame Nature gathers round a foreign body an envelope of some insensitive tissue which can protect from evil that which it would otherwise harm by contact. What? Dame Nature, Mother Nature, gathers around a foreign body an envelope of some insensitive tissue which can protect from evil that. Okay, whatever, moving on. If this be an ordered selfishness, then we should pause before we condemn anyone for the vice of egoism, for there may be deeper root for its causes than we have knowledge of. I used my knowledge of this phase of spiritual pathology and laid down a rule that she should not be present with Lucy or think of her illness more than was absolutely required. She assented readily, so readily that I saw again the hand of nature fighting for life. Van Helsing and I were shown up to Lucy's room. If I was shocked when I saw her yesterday, I was horrified when I saw her today. She was even ghastly, chalkily pale. The red seemed to have gone even from her lips and gums, and the bones of her face stood out prominently. Her breathing was painful to see or hear. Van Helsing's face grew set as marble, and his eyebrows converged so they almost touched over his nose. Lucy lay motionless and did not seem to have the strength to speak. So for a while, we were all silent. Then Van Helsing beckoned to me, and we went gently out of the room. The instant we had closed the door, he stepped quickly along the passage to the next door, which was open. Then he pulled me quickly in with him and closed the door. "My God," he said, "this is dreadful. There is no time to be lost. She will die for sheer want of blood, to keep the heart's action as it should be. There must be transfusion of blood at once. Is it you or me?" That's a bad idea unless you have the same blood type, sir. That's inadvisable. I think she's gonna die here. "I am younger and stronger, Professor. It must be me." "Then get ready at once. I'll bring up my bag. I am prepared." I went downstairs with him, and as we were going, there was a knock at the hall door. When we reached the hall, the maid had just opened the door, and Arthur was stepping quickly in. He rushed up to me, saying in an eager whisper, "Jack, I was so anxious. I read between the lines of your letter and have been in agony. The dad was better, so I ran down here to see for myself. Is it not that gentleman, Dr. Van Helsing? I am so thankful to you, sir, for coming." When first the professor's eye had lit upon him, he had been angry at his interruption at such a time. But now, as he took in his stalwart proportions and recognized the strong, young manhood which seemed to emanate from him, his eyes gleamed. Without a pause, he said to him gravely as he held out his hand, "Sir, you have come in time. You are the lover of our dear miss. She is bad. Very, very bad. Nay, my child, do not go like that." For he suddenly grew pale and sat down in a chair, almost fainting. Do they know what blood types are? When was that discovered? Probably not till the 20th century. I'm sure they would have guessed it was something before then, but probably not confirmed till the 20th century, now that I think about it. Fainting. "You are to help her. You can do more than any that live, and your courage is your best help." "What can I do?" asked Arthur hoarsely. "Tell me, and I shall do it. My life is hers, and I would give the last drop of blood in my body for her." The professor has a strongly humorous side, and I could, from old knowledge, detect a trace of his origin in his answer. "My young sir, I do not ask so much as that, not the last." "What shall I do?" There was fire in his eyes, and his open nostril quivered with intent. Van Helsing slapped him on the shoulder. "Come," he said. "You are a man. It is a man we want. You are better than me. Better than my friend John." Arthur looked bewildered, and the professor went on by explaining in a kindly way. Young Miss is bad. Very bad. She wants blood, and blood she must have or die. My friend John and I have consulted, and we are about to perform what we call transfusion of blood, to transfer from full veins of one to the empty veins which pine for him. John was to give his blood, as he is more young and strong than me. Here, Arthur took my hand and wrung it hard in silence. But now, here you are. You are more good than us, old or young, who toil much in the world of thought. Our nerves are not so calm, and our blood not so bright than yours. Arthur turned to him and said, "If you only knew how gladly I would die for her, you would understand." He stopped, with a sort of choke in his voice. "Good boy," said Van Helsing. "In the not so far off, you will be happy that you have done all for her you love. All for her you love." Sometimes it's like the words are in the wrong order. "Come now, and be silent. You shall kiss her once before it is done. But then you must go, and you must leave at my sign. Say no word to Madame. You know how it is with her. There must be no shock. Any knowledge of this would be one. Come." We all went up to Lucy's room. Arthur, by direction, remained outside. Lucy turned her head and looked at us, but said nothing. She was not asleep, but she was simply too weak to make the effort. Her eyes spoke to us. That was all. Van Helsing took some things from his bag and laid them on a little table out of sight. Then he mixed a narcotic and, coming over to the bed, said cheerily, "Is he really going to dope her up?" That's just what they did back then. "Now, little miss, here is your medicine. Drink it off like a good child. See, I left you so that to swallow is easy. Yes." She had made the effort with success. This is going to keep going for a while. We are going to end there for tonight because it is unfortunately 2:30, the time for me to get to bed so I can go to work tomorrow. That was chapters 9 and a bit of 10 of Dracula by Bram Stoker. I hope everyone enjoyed that. I've been enjoying reading this for Halloween in October in general. Tomorrow there will not be a stream because I have to wake up the following morning for an appointment. So the next stream will be Monday, where I am playing Pumpkin Jack? Is that the name of it? Yeah, Pumpkin Jack. A cool little platformer about the Pumpkin King. But that will be Wednesday. No stream tomorrow. I hope everyone had a fantastic Friday. Hope you enjoyed this stream. Feel free to check me out on Twitter. Link is in the description of this video. If you enjoyed this, feel free to also like and subscribe for more content, because I read pretty regularly, at least once a week. But with that, I will say goodnight. Take care, everyone, and I will see you Monday. If I said Monday, I meant Wednesday.